Okay, I know that one of the things was when a student, you call on a student and they give you the incorrect response.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say you have Braden, KJ, and Lexi in a class.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so you ask Lexi a question
Mm-hmm.
about whatever it is that you're teaching.
Yeah.
And she gives you the incorrect response, or not
Mm-hmm.
a response that you're looking for. And so you go to Braden.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Braden gives you the correct response. What needs to happen then is you go back to Lexi and you say, "What did Braden just say?"
Okay.
And then the reason for that being is that then the last thing that she has said in response to that question
Mm-hmm.
is the correct thing for her to be saying. Now then, it does get a little bit dicey as you maybe have to track back 3 or 4 kids, but you can do it the same way. Let's say you ask Lexi a question, she gets it wrong, Braden gets it wrong, KJ gets it wrong. Your husband's name is
Kirk.
Kirk. Okay, so Kirk finally gets it right. So then you go, "Great job, Kirk. That's exactly right." KJ, what did Kirk just say? Braden, what did KJ and Kirk just say? Lexi, what did Braden, KJ, and Kirk just say? So everybody then, the last thing that they have said is the correct response. It's just like examples and non-examples. When you're doing examples and non-examples, you do the non-examples first, so the examples are the last thing that the students see or are shown.
Okay, because I kind of did that with Tamara. I kept going back to her after different problems, but you're talking about the exact same problem, not what I did with Tamara.
Right, because you're wanting to fix it. You still, Tamara didn't have it, and
Yes.
you went back to her for her to get known. But once Ryder or whoever it was answered the question correctly, Tamara, what did he just say? Because one, that's keeping her engaged because you've moved on, and a lot of times when they move, they didn't get it right, and we all knew that she didn't get it right, so she's checked out because she's not going to get called on again. And so what that's doing is playing 2 pieces in that. It's keeping her engaged because they now know even when they get it wrong, they are still having to come back and give you the correct answer when you find it. And the first couple of times that I did that, especially in kindergarten, you can imagine, I had to make me a list of kids that I had called on so I could track it back.
Yeah.
But as you get more used to that, and as the kids get more used to that, the list
I do
gets shorter.
it, not consistently, but
That was just something that I
it's not consistent enough, but I do it.
Something that I noticed.
Mm-hmm.
This still isn't coming up. I apologize. So, let me restart. What else was on that list? Do you remember?
You had said I wasn't calling on certain kids.
You kept calling on the same kids over and over and over. After a while, you spread it out a little bit more. But for a long time in there, Ryder got called on a lot. Was it Lisa that got called on a lot?
Yeah, they tend to play.
Yeah. So, you got to spread it out. You got to spread it out among.
But I
gender.
call on them more often, and I guess this is wrong, but I call on because Lisa and Ryder and a couple of them, they tend to play. So if I call on them more often, then they don't play.
But Lisa and Ryder can afford to play, and some of these others that aren't getting called on are not getting the practice answering the questions that they need.
Lisa can afford to play, but Ryder fails everything.
Ryder should not be failing.
He is. He's failing everything.
Why? What's going on with
Do not understand. He fails everything.
Is he checked out? What is there?
Do not
going
understand.
on?
He's capable, but he fails everything. So.
That's weird. Okay, so that, you got to just really, watch yourself on that. It's an easy thing to get into, but you've got to think in terms of, I've got to distribute it among gender, I've got to distribute it among race, I've got to distribute it among position in the classroom. I've got to get as many pieces.
Yeah. I'll just do the popsicle sticks, and that'll weigh it.
there's one you can put on your phone. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it also gives you the Bloom's levels, and you can assign Bloom's levels for the kids. So, like if you have Shadrach and maybe he can't answer a higher level question, he can answer that lower level question. And then you can go to somebody else and they can answer the higher level question. And then you can go back to Shadrach and say, what can you now add based on what they're not in the same class, but Elise just
Mhm.
said. You see where
Yeah.
I'm going there? I mean, it wasn't anything bad, and I wasn't fault finding. It was just I knew that Stacy was focusing on instruction, and I was sitting up front, so I was really looking at what the kids were doing.
Mm-hmm. I guess it just came across. I mean, because some of the words you used, like dictate, and I mean, some of those, it came across very strong, and so that's why I was like, okay, then I need to figure out what's going on,
Well,
so I need to. That's
you
why I
need
was
to
like,
learn
I
how
need to.
read the room a little bit better, because there was a point when they were done, and you felt you needed to keep going, and at that point, you were the only person in the room engaged in what was going on. And that happens when they are at their saturation point. And it's a common thing. It's just trying to think what else. If you need to walk around the room more, okay? Because the people in the back, that's where Ryder and
Mhm.
Richard are. You're not ever going back there, so they feel like it's a little bit easier to get away with things that they're getting away with. Proximity control is going to
Mhm.
alleviate some of those issues. I mean, I'm just going through things that I noticed. It's all tweaking, Cheryl, at this point.
Yeah.
It's not wholesale redos on anything. I think that's it.
I'm trying to think if there was anything else that stood out. I don't have my notes in front of me.
Let me go to my sent folder. That's probably why I can't find it. Hello.
Oh, I know what you said.
What?
One of the things you said is, you dictate to the kids how to do it, when to do it, and what to do it.
Mm-hmm.
How could I do that differently? Because I thought that what I did was I gave instructions for whatever piece. Like for instance, when we were doing that problem, I gave instructions for that piece. We chunked it down, and then they went and did it on their own, and then we regrouped.
Right.
So how would that look differently?
What I was going for there was there's no, the way you explain things, there is no, here we go, finally. There's no room for a different way of thinking. Okay, there's no room for creative problem solving. There's more than one way to skin a cat
Mhm.
all the time. So it may be that somebody out there has a different way of doing it, but you are this is the way that it needs to be done.
Okay.
And I know that y'all did Teach Like a Champion last year as a book study, right?
No, we didn't.
You didn't?
We didn't do any book studies last year.
Did you do it the year before? Okay. A lot of the things that I'm talking about are in that book. I have a copy of that book if you would like to browse through it and look at it. But, no opt-out and right is right and those type of things are all in that book. that's it. I'm looking at what I sent you, and we've hit on each one of those.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's what I needed to know. And what about the lesson plans for this week?
Lesson
I
plans
see you
are
have them
awesome.
printed them.
I printed them off Friday or Thursday. So that's exactly what.
Okay. I can do that. I put it on a separate sheet of paper and always have. I just didn't know I was supposed to put it on a regular paper with everybody
You
else.
can just, I mean, if you can read it off, I mean, I wasn't wanting you to have to redo everything. And so if what you showed me was Excel and that was what you were teaching from, then fabulous. But my sense of it was that you weren't seeing that as a useful document. It was just something that you needed to check off.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever useful document you're using, that needs to be your plan.
I mean, I like Excel better, but I think everybody else can read Word better, so I'll do Word. But I mean, I prefer Excel, but I'll do Word and stuff. So
your pacing thing, that's fine in Excel. I mean,
yeah, I'm gonna keep that in Excel just
and I
because
think
like
that worked very well, the way that we did it. So,
yeah. Okay, now on this pacing, because with Stacy we only did the second 6 weeks.
Right.
Does everybody need to be? Because we haven't. Well, I mean, we did this part of the third 6 weeks.
Okay.
Does the pacing now to be turned in at the beginning of the 6 weeks, or is the pacing just for us?
The pacing was really, I need it because I have it from where y'all stopped, so that we can just make sure, it's just an accountability piece that we're all, we all know what we're.
But
supposed to be doing.
I don't know if I misunderstood or I didn't hear. But from now on at the 6 weeks, the pacing needs to be turned in.
And what we're going to do is in the January day, we're going to finish out pacing. And then what is going to happen is you're going to take your low scoring SEs from the test you have given so far. And we are going to write spiraling problem solving questions for those low scoring SEs.
Okay.
Things that y'all will write because you know your kids, you know what it is that they need, and we're creating our own pieces for that.
Okay.
Okay. Another thing and it wasn't that I didn't tell you, it was just that, and I haven't told anybody, but in visiting with other teachers from my prior campus, I was like, oh yeah, they need to, I need to tell them that they can do that. What they're doing before they're giving their unit test is they are giving